Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back for another episode of E2KGn30, your weekly news in the gaming industry, fast. So tonight, we have guest starring on our show, Mr. Peter Morrow. How you doing, Peter?
Good. How you doing?
Very good, very good. Old friend and colleague of mine from podcasting days of yore. This is E2KGn30, episode number 40 for Thursday, April 26, 2018. So let's get started right away with the news blender. Here with us, as always, or at least 1/3 of the time, I think it sounds like works out. We also have Mr. Swiss Guard. How you doing, Swiss?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good, good, good. So you stepping up to pinch hit tonight, previously unscheduled, are leading the show off with a news story about loot boxes. I swear, I'm absolutely certain this is the favorite, most frequent topic on E2KGn30. Take it away, Swiss.
Yes, as Agaskles mentioned, I'm stepping in for Prime, who had a family activity tonight, and as we all know that Prime loves his Law and Order stories. So the headline is: Belgium joins the Netherlands in ruling that declares some loot boxes illegal. This article is from IGN. So the Belgian Gaming Commission has ruled that some loot boxes are illegal, following a similar decision recently made by the Netherlands. So in a statement released today from the Minister of Justice, it was announced that loot boxes in FIFA 18, Overwatch, and Counter-Strike Global Offensive constitute games of chance, making them subject to Belgian gaming law, and therefore, if the studio refuses to comply with removing them from the game, they can be fined up to 800,000 euros and potential jail time. And those could be doubled given that minors are involved. So our guest, Peter, has the next story.
Yeah, so Forbes recently released their numbers for the video gaming industry as far as hardware and software sales in March of 2018. And it's largely what you'd expect, although they did see a sharp fall in sales overall compared to a year ago. About a year ago was when I think the Switch was launched, so they were guessing that things were inflated by that.
Very cool, very cool. Next up on the news blender is Beyond Two Souls headlines May's PlayStation Plus lineup. This story was sourced from Kotaku, and then over there they report, if you need some David Cage before Detroit comes out in May, next month's PlayStation Plus lineup has you with Beyond Two Souls. As ever, these games are only free if you have an active PlayStation Plus account. We'll come back and go through the list in detail. But again, Beyond Two Souls is a previous release, a wee bit controversial, also similar in vein to Heavy Rain, very polarizing in terms of gaming community opinion, as being very artistic but not very gamey. And so this is in the PlayStation Plus lineup just before the release of that team's next game, which comes out in May, Detroit Become Human. So the follow-up story, or the following story, is sourced from MCV, one of my personally favorite gaming news reporting sites. Rooster Teeth opens a London office. This was reported a couple of days ago. And that office is supposed to serve as a proving ground for potential global expansion. So MCV reports that video game media company Rooster Teeth has opened an office in London as it seeks to expand its reach into the UK and Europe. The media company is known best for its YouTube channels encompassing personality-led videos. The company has 45 million subscribers across all of its YouTube channels, which encompass a variety of personality-led broadcasting. But Rooster Teeth are perhaps best known for their work with Machinima. I can't remember if it's Machinima or Machinima. Jury may be out on that.
I will say I was a nerd, like literally before we came on. I said, "How do you pronounce Machinima?"
Becoming one of the pioneers in the space after the company launched in 2003 with the comedy series and the way that I personally discovered them, Red vs. Blue. Red vs. Blue was entirely set within the game of Halo with footage taken from that game. So Red versus Blue was based on Halo, but Swiss, you're going to talk to us about a game based on Turtles?
Not completely. So Nintendo has announced their next Splatoon event, Splatfest. Splatoon 2 Ninja Turtles collaboration Splatfest announced. So they're teaming up with Nickelodeon for a special Splatfest next month. It's going to last all month. Round 1 will pit Leonardo against Raphael. Round 2, Donatello against Michelangelo. The finalists will, quote, duke it out on May 18th, the weekend of May 18th. So as you know, Splatfest, gamers can pick one side or the other, and it's kind of whichever side you pick, they do turf wars, and at the end of the weekend, you declare a winner. And usually it's just once per month, and it's kind of benign things like cake versus ice cream or baseball versus soccer. And this is a first, I think, that I recall of Splatoon actually using kind of a cross-marketing event. Apparently, and I guess I'm out of the loop on this, Nickelodeon is releasing a new series, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that will be debuting soon, or this fall, on Nickelodeon.
Cool. So Swiss correctly pointed out that, Peter, you also had another story as well about Xbox Live being integrated with a very popular messaging service in the gaming world.
Yeah, so both Polygon and IGN are reporting that the Xbox Live system and Discord are going to be allowing you to link your accounts together. And it's amazing to me the amount of God, words. Yeah, that hasn't changed. It's amazing to me the amount of momentum that Discord seems to have lately. It's really becoming its own social media empire that caters direct to gamers, and having the ability to link your account into your Xbox Live account, I think is great too. So we can go into it a little more in detail later, but when released, you'll be able to view who's online, what they're playing, and kind of stalk your friends.
All right, very cool. So Swiss, take us out of the news blender with the final big story about lots of stuff with Nintendo. First to strike, I believe, in the quarterly financial earnings reporting.
Yes. So the big news, they announced their financial results for fiscal year ending 31 March. They predict to ship 37.79 million Switch units by next March. And additional strong results. Net sales, like over $1 million yen for the year ended for the year ending March 31, 2018. I guess that's 115.8% increase, or from year on year. So basically, it's really good. They're doing very, very well. As far as digital sales, they mentioned on the Switch, 60.8 billion yen, an 87% increase on a year-on-year basis. The Super Nintendo and Super NES Classic shipped sales totaling 5.28 million units. So pretty much across the board, they're quite successful. I do believe I also saw, not in this particular article, but Fire Emblem Heroes was making something in the order of $300 million or something crazy like that. So
was that the mobile game variant?
Yes.
Okay.
It's very successful. By far their most successful mobile game, but that surprised me as well. But that wasn't the only other news coming. They also announced that they will be getting a new CEO. So Satoru Iwata, he passed away in 2015, and Tatsumi Kimishima was the replacement, and he had always been forthcoming about the fact that he was a bridge president. He didn't intend to keep the maintain the company. He just kind of wanted to be the steady hand after Iwata passed away due to cancer. And so now they have what I anticipate being their permanent president, Shuntaro Furukawa. So he has been a long-time Nintendo employee from the 90s, but I'm assuming he must have been early in his career, because he's only 46 years old. He's been on the board of the Pokemon Company. He speaks fluent English, spent time in Germany for Nintendo. So it's definitely a different energy and personality that's going to be taking the helm at Nintendo. And I'm sure you all have many thoughts on that. So we can turn it over to the discussion.
Right, so that wraps the news blender. Thank you very much for those people who are trying to get in and out of here in even less than 30 minutes. You are done, and you can proceed on your way unless you want to stick around for the discussion segment of the show. So let's go ahead and move on to the breakdown. First of all, Beyond Two Souls versus Detroit Becoming Human. Again, that is kind of the headlining title coming to PlayStation Plus for PlayStation 4. Again, controversial game. There are lots of people who love it. There are lots of people who don't. I didn't play Heavy Rain, but one of the reasons I stayed away from it was because, again, I heard that it was very artsy, very beautiful, gorgeous looking game, but not a game, so to speak. And I heard the same thing about Beyond Two Souls. Also coming to the PlayStation platforms on PlayStation Plus this month, May, is Rayman Legends, which should have been a launch title or very near in the launch window, because it was a launch title for the Xbox One. Then on PlayStation 3, you are still getting Risen 3 Titan Lords and Eat Them as we head into the final year of that platform being supported by PlayStation Plus. And then on PlayStation Vita, there is King Oddball, which is a cross-buy for PS3 and PS4, and Furman's. So I guess... and I'm not sure if either of you guys have a PlayStation 4, but regardless, I guess I'd ask the question, do you guys think this is a good move by Sony? This is a game that, like I said, was polarizing and may not, is considered by a large part of the gaming community as not good. And I don't know, and I wonder if it really paints Quantic Dream in the best light before they launch their new game, Detroit Become Human.
I don't actually think it's a problem. I understand what you're saying regarding, maybe not stoking nostalgia or excitement for Quantic Dream, but rather resurrecting kind of sour taste in people's mouths or poor experiences. But honestly, I think it's a safe play because, if they want people to get, I think they probably want people to know what they're getting with Detroit Become Human. And, if you go in with your expectations set, and maybe this is helping to set expectations for Detroit Become Human, people are going to be surprised. It's like, what's up with this game? Why isn't it Deus Ex? Why isn't it God of War? And they can, it's like, look, we're trying to reach a different audience than the normal, quote unquote, stereotypical gamer with this. And, for a free thing with the PlayStation Plus for the month, I don't see it being really risking a backfire. In other words,
that's what kind of gets ahead of the negative backlash by maybe if people play this and don't like it, they stay away from Detroit Become Human, and you don't have this groundswell of negative feedback. So, Peter, any opinions on your end?
I'm not too familiar with this game, to be honest. I don't have a PlayStation.
Gotcha.
But I'm all for free games, and if you can try it before something else comes out, then you'll get an idea of what that studio is doing. So I think overall it's not a bad idea.
Cool. Very cool. So Discord integration with Xbox Live. Peter, this was a story you brought into the fold. My question for you is, why do I need this?
Well, that's a good question, and really, I found it more interesting from the perspective of, here is another, basically another platform that mirrors a lot of what the Xbox Live already has in features, and they're integrating it, and I think it more in kind of an indicator of how Microsoft is really treating Xbox more as a generalized platform and not the end all be all. They really early on, you were able to link your Xbox Live profile to things like Facebook, and now they're adding support for this, what is essentially a gamer social media company. They're adding this on, so I think it's more indicative of the kind of Microsoft that we're seeing under Satya Nadella.
So, Swiss, you've heard me, and I bless your soul, probably more times than you would like to hear about the perspective that Microsoft is kind of coiling themselves up to compete in the next generation, which I'm expecting to see include a huge ramp in the strategy of games as a service. Part of my question in what I asked Peter was, why do I need another gaming messaging service when Xbox Live already includes that? And I already live part of my life in the Android world, where the problem is Google has 59 different messaging services, and it frustrates the heck out of me to no end. Has Discord transcended being a basic messaging service to being a kind of gamer social network? And is this therefore Microsoft's leap to say, we're going to do games as a service, and in order to maximize your value in that, we're going to partner and pair ourselves up with the leading gaming social network so that you can experience both of those and like I said, maximize your social outreach and connectivity with friends?
I think anytime you can tap yourself into into consumers, that would be sympathetic to your product, it's probably a good thing. I'm going to admit I'm not a very social media savvy person, because quite frankly, I don't care and I don't have the time for it. And so, you're not going to find me on Discord. I would have the same, I would call it crotchety opinion that you do. And I've known you long enough to know that you hate redundant services.
Except where we're talking about systems or software reliability. That's a different topic.
True. So, when I was researching it before the show, because I'd seen Discord, but not enough to really grok it. It's like, oh wait, this is kind of it's going to be doing the same thing. I use Steam for when I do it on PC. So if there's people on it, it makes sense for Microsoft to want to provide it. It doesn't mean that Microsoft is abandoning Xbox Live or anything like that. It just means they can get more people to choose Xbox over PlayStation, because they say, hey, look, your Discord buddies can all get together. Is it really that big of a deal for them? I think it's just a low risk, high reward kind of proposition.
Yeah, I would agree. And it is good to point out too that according to the Microsoft press release, which I picked up, they are doing this because of user feedback. Now, whether or not that's 50% of their users, or 10%, I don't think we'll ever know, but I don't even know if it's that high. But it is interesting to see that they're saying this is something that users wanted. And I tend to agree with you, Agastocles. It's a duplicate service on something that already exists. It's a lot like Android, and there are too many messaging apps. So
yeah, I invoked a slight bit of sarcasm in that line of questioning. However, I will say I have in the past, and I'm probably getting around back to this notion. We talk about this, like consuming movies and television content, kind of using two panes of glass, right? You're watching the show on one thing, and I'm definitely guilty of this, but you're on your phone or your tablet, like just burning IMDb to the ground, right? As you search for all the relationships between all the actors, and like, is this director the same guy who did blah blah blah? I've definitely done the same thing from a gaming perspective, and especially when you're live streaming, I definitely have to have two panes of glass so I can see the chat stream as well as the game. So I am a little interested in the notion of, can you organize and get people together in a room and marshal them to the place they need to be before you kick the game off and get everybody into like the lobby and the party and all that stuff in any given game. So it's interesting. Let's move on to talk about Nintendo financials. Now we have about 8 minutes left on the clock. Swiss, I know you want to get into this in super detail, maybe. I will say it looks like we're going to do another quarterly financial show special. So I don't necessarily want to dig into everything on this. A couple questions up front. Did they mention anything in their financials about microtransactions that you saw?
Not that I saw. Like I said, the closest thing I think I saw was the Fire Emblem numbers. But I'm trying to think which games that Nintendo really has, other than their mobile offerings, really have embraced that as a revenue stream.
Right. I mean, I guess they have Fire Emblem. I think Splatoon has some. I don't know. The 3DS has them all over the place, right? Because you can buy themes for the 3DS that are based on characters and things like that. So it looks like they didn't call that out, which is one of the things I want to look for this year. Is DBQ and I definitely saw a trend of the big publishers reporting how much of their revenue was coming from microtransactions last year and in the last few quarters of last year. So I'm wondering if we're going to see that from the manufacturers as well, since they're also concurrently publishers.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't see that in this article, but it doesn't mean that they didn't actually call it out. I'm just ill prepared.
No. That's right. So again, this is not the financial reporting special. We do a breakout special episode for that. So this is just to touch on this report. And how many units did they say they were projecting now for Switch sales in the next year?
37.79 million, I think, lifetime units by March 2019.
Okay, so it's basically like 40 million units, which I think is about kind of where the Xbox One is now. So it's pretty impressive. They are definitely back to the we're printing money.
Right. It would be 20 million units over the course of the next year.
Right. All right. So, Peter, any thoughts on Nintendo's financial health, where they're headed?
It warms the heart of my childhood self to see Nintendo finally not being called a struggling video game company anymore. So I'm happy about that. Otherwise, there are things that I saw in their report that kind of surprised me. I would have thought that there'd be more. My doorbell's ringing. I thought there'd be more lifetime sales in Japan versus the Americas.
And I'm sorry, I'm missing. How many units did they say they sold in Japan?
Let's see. Hardware lifetime to date is 2,400 in Japan and 2,500. I mean, it's not a whole lot of difference. and those are tens of thousands.
Okay, gotcha.
So it was just an interesting difference.
Right. So, Swiss, you mentioned that that you were surprised by the Fire Emblem numbers. I actually was not, and maybe it's because I had heard previously that. So number one, there was a rabid following behind the Fire Emblem franchise that I would say is just as compassionate about that franchise as people are about Final Fantasy. And I think the key difference with that is I can't remember if it's, I don't know that it's a ton of microtransactions, but it's not the Mario business model, right? Where Super Mario Run or wherever, where you got a bit of the game and you could then pay to unlock more. I think that model is you pay a, not small fee, but you pay a price for the game, and I think you get the whole game. Does that, if knowing that it's that kind of business model, does that make sense to you now?
No, I don't think it's one where you purchase the whole game. Like it's like microtransaction based. Like Super Mario Run, I think, was the experiment that they had where you pay up front and you get it. So Fire Emblem Heroes, I think, is much more of a classic, the classic kind of model. But why it surprises me, I'm saying, I've said this a lot tonight, which is probably not good considering I'm, attempting to be on a podcast. But I started like when, mobile games were first a thing, I played some, and it just doesn't satisfy me as a gamer. So I don't really have even many on my phone now. I'd rather play the Switch or my PlayStation or 3DS. So, and then it's just they're mobile games don't really pierce my pierce the zeitgeist for me. So hearing that like Nintendo has sitting on $300 million for this phone game experiment was a little bit shocking, but perhaps I shouldn't be. I mean, I know how much Candy Crush makes. I know how much Clash of Clans makes. Why can't Nintendo tap into that? They should be able to. So again, I plead ignorance.
Okay, excuse me. So yeah, you're absolutely correct. I'm mistaken. It is a free-to-play game, and everything is microtransaction based. And I guess what it is just people. It's a beloved franchise that people are very compassionate about, and they are willing to pay for that content. And actually, it is that willingness to pay in that fan base has proven in relatively stark contrast, just in terms of sales volume, to Super Mario Run.
Right. So I mean, if you want to have a comparison of like, and it's not like Mario is some little franchise, it's not like it's like some second tier thing. So if you want exhibit A of microtransactions and why the industry seems to be going in that direction, this is it.
It's definitely nice to see an old company able to adapt to new things.
Yeah, and I think they were just as surprised by this, right? And yes, as we're talking about this more and more, my memory is being refreshed and it's coming back to me. Yeah, the surprising aspect of this experiment is exactly what you mentioned, which is they would have thought that Super Mario Run would have pulled in more dollars based on its more widespread popularity. However, what they've discovered is that the people it's popular with are not ones that are willing to pay, but this smaller but very rabid and compassionate fan base of people that are Fire Emblem fans are absolutely willing to shovel large sums of cash in the direction of that franchise and pull it together, which has led people to question, whether or not Nintendo now diverts on that kind of strategy, right? Don't put out your super big mascot kind of characters that everybody loves. Put out these smaller titles in terms of global uptake that people are very compassionate about. So that is all we have time for tonight. We're going to table some of these other topics and potentially discuss them as topics on the core discussion show, which, as everyone viewing or listening or downloading this should know, goes down on Tuesday nights at about 9:15 p.m. Eastern. We split the show up into a bi-weekly trade-off. So 1 week it's a gamer experience show where we talk about the titles that we've played and the experiences that we're extracting from them, and any topics that we extrapolate our platform off of. from those experiences. And then the other week, it is a big deep dive discussion show where we pick out a specific topic, sometimes generated from leftover content that we have from the news show, sometimes based on another news story which has popped up, or sometimes just based on a topic that we've been kicking around in our team chat room. So please tune in for that. Tune in next week for the next edition of the news show, kicking off the top of May. Peter, thank you so much for sitting in. We do really appreciate it.
Hey, it was a lot of fun. Thanks.
Yeah, if you do anything like your runs and fencing and other topics of interest, where can people keep up with your activities?
Edrickson_Tarot on Instagram or Twitter.
All right, and that will be included in the show rundown, so you can take a look at that if you are checking out the video. Once again, thanks so much, everybody, for joining in and checking us out. On behalf of the E2KG Network, SwissGuard, Peter, and myself, that's going to do it for us. Once again, this has been E2KGn30, episode number 40 for Thursday, the 26th of April, for the week ending 27 April 2018. That's going to do it for us tonight. We are out of here.